Good morning. Good morning. Do you want to help lay some conduit? Bugaboo, can you say conduit? Bugaboo, conduit. Can you say conduit? Yeah. All right, buddy. We got to get power into the house today, okay? Okay, have fun. Mom told me use the bridge. Tells me you know what to do. Goodbye. Goodbye. So here's the plan, guys. This is 2.5 inch schedule 80. That's what we're going to use to bring the power in from the meter over to the house. This guy right here has not been beveled, and this guy has. So we need to work really hard to make sure all of our pipe looks like that before we glue it together. And I've got a reamer to do it. Then we've got 1.25 inches, and we're gonna run 1.25 inches from the house back this way over to the cabin. And we're probably gonna stub it up and just leave it at ground level, because someday we're gonna build a shop out here. And I'm not sure how that's all gonna transpire, but I'd rather bring that conduit over here now, and then if we have to or we want to, we can tie into it and whatever. Or we can also bring 30 amp power over here where the RV is, and then we can get rid of all the solar, get rid of all the extension cords and all that garbage, and keep it all underground. There's already sewer and water, so why not add at least a 30 amp hookup over here? It's a good spot to be. Then we're going to be bringing 3/4 from the house over to the top of the driveway, and we'll probably stub that up into an outdoor outlet. The sawmill will eventually become part of its trailer and become mobile, but that's a great place to keep the sawmill and use it. And it'd be wonderful to have a little bit of power right there to run a compressor or things like that. And then we're waiting on the phone company to get us some phone line. We're gonna just drop a direct bury phone line in here, and eventually we can trench down the driveway, and if we so choose, we could tie into the phone system in case we get some cheap internet or something like that. So we'll be running 3/4 to do that, and then that leaves the door open to tie into that outlet and come down the driveway in case we want to put a light in or something like that at the bottom of the driveway. I talked to the electrician this morning. I'm glad I did, because apparently they're coming tomorrow, which is good and bad. Good because we want to get this done and backfilled. Bad because I don't have very long to get it ready. So we'll be working on getting this all glued up and in the trench and ready for them. His concern with me backfilling it before he's taking a look at it is he wants to make sure that I got the stub ups correct at the meter, the pedestal, and at the house. Fair enough. I don't mind some help on that stuff. I feel good about it, but I'm sure there's probably a preferred way to do it. Then tomorrow, hopefully, I have my high hopes for tomorrow, that we'll work on getting the panel and getting basically power in the house at a live panel. Then maybe throughout the rest of the week, we can work on getting things wired up inside. That sounds fun. We're using schedule 80 on all of our conduit because of how rocky the soil is. It's quite a bit thicker. The wall is compared to schedule 40. I think we're not required to use schedule 80, but to give you some idea, this is the wall thickness of schedule 80, and there's schedule 40. I believe that there's something in the code, don't quote me on this, but there's something in the code about anything that's above ground has to be Schedule 80, and I don't know if that's so much about strength as it is about UV resistance. Schedule 40, I don't know if that's allowed for above ground, but we're using Schedule 80 because we got a lot of rock and we want to basically direct bury this stuff. We don't want to hassle with putting a bunch of sand in the trench and bedding it and doing all that stuff. And well, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth the cheap insurance not having to dig it back up. A subscriber sent this to us, and I greatly appreciate it, but I haven't had a chance to use it since it showed up, so it's been sitting in storage. So I'm kind of excited to use it today, but I'm not excited to break it. And this 2.5-inch Schedule 80 conduit's pretty strong. So I think I'm gonna move to a metal reamer just to be safe, and then we'll try to use this on some of the smaller stuff where plastic's probably a better thing. This might even be more suited to PEX or something like that, or ABS or PVC, but this stuff, I don't want to break this tool that was given to us. So hey there, big guy. Rock slide, rock slide. Well, 40 feet down and 210 to go. If you're wondering, this is available in 20-foot lengths, and unfortunately this morning I had no way to get 20-foot conduit home. So the result is more work reaming and more glue, but in the end it's the same price and it's a little bit less hassle. A little tip, and I don't know this is true everywhere, but our local electrical contractor actually has a really good electrical warehouse. And you want to be careful. You don't want to use them for their knowledge because they really hate that. That's what they get paid for. They're electricians, right? It's the whole, you pay a penny for the nail and $100 for knowing where to hit it. But these folks are super helpful. They know electrical code and they have a lot of this stuff in stock. They have a warehouse. And what we have found is that a lot of the electrical supply houses either are not very helpful because the person at the front counter is very accustomed to working with people in the trades. So basically they just get work orders and they fill the work order. So they're kind of like a warehouse worker, not so much involved in the trades. They kind of know like what people normally do, but they don't know why. Or we've also found that they won't sell direct to the public. And there are several supply houses in our area that will only sell to licensed electricians. That's their business model, but we have found that there is a shop in our area who will help you. And they'll answer basic questions. Of course, if it's something that they think you should hire out, they're just going to tell you that. In fact, this morning at the warehouse, I ran into a couple people who were just asking questions about things like pedestals and stuff like that. In fact, the electrician encouraged us to put our own pedestal in. We didn't do that, but he said, you can do it, it's easy. So finding a supply house that kind of works with DIYers or home builders or owner builders is obviously pivotal to success. But if you can find someone like that that also has a warehouse in stock, so far they have beat every price, even for the supply houses who sell only to contractors. They're more expensive. So take that. Ha! Anyway, so we did not buy a 20-foot conduit. We're working with 10s. They fit in the back of the truck. I don't have to deal with a trailer or some other way of getting them home. And in the end, it's the same price. Something we learned doing the conduit to bring the electricity from the pole to the transformer was that if you put the conduit in the trench so that you're basically mating into the bell, you have to glue this bell. And if that's in the trench, then it stays protected from the dirt. And you glue this side and slide it into the bell. If you go the other way around, this guy's sitting in the trench and you glue this and try to slide it on, this wants to get in the dirt and you get dirt all over your glue. So that's one thing that we figured out when working the other direction. Something else we learned is that when possible, which is not very often, glue the conduit outside the trench in some area where you have room to work. Because in the trench, this is a shallow trench, but when the trench starts to get deeper, you have no room in here to work. And what ends up happening is you start knocking the sides in, especially if it's sandy and you're kind of, wrestling around with the conduit, you'll end up just knocking the sides in and knocking a bunch of rock on your work. So if you can, put it all together outside the trench and then drop it in the trench. Of course, taping one end or both ends before you drop it in the trench will keep dirt from getting shoved in there when you do it. Well, I've got a long way to go on this 2.5 inch. So I think I'm gonna put the camera down, put my head down, get this done, and then I'll probably check back in when we're ready to switch conduit sizes and start running the other lines. I think this is the last one, I think. Well, I stand corrected. This little yellow reamer did a fantastic job. I thought it would be too fragile for this heavy conduit. And I'll just say that it survived one day. But I put some pretty good torque on it. This conduit's no joke. It's definitely dense material. So I stand corrected. The other thing I wanted to share while it's on my mind, if somebody watching this video is ever doing this heavy conduit like this, it will not go together if it is not in the same plane. These two pieces will absolutely not go together. It's incredible how tight this fit is if they're not in the same plane. So putting this stuff together on a flat surface like this is a dream compared to trying to do it in the trench. I thought I'd share that. It's something that we've learned the hard way. And what the problem is, no matter how hard you try, well, around here anyway, with all the rocky soil, your trench is never flat in the bottom. And so this stuff's going up and down. And especially with the 20-foot pieces, getting them in the same plane is really hard. Once that's done, they slide together fairly easily. Ow. And we're in. Yeah, just a wee bit long. Oh, I can tell already this is gonna suck. Yep. Remember what I was saying about the plane? Oh, that wasn't too bad. Something else I'll share. We learned the very, very, very hard way. See all this rocky soil here? But then it turns to clayish right there. Well, gosh, if there isn't a better lesson in the stability of a trench than this. We knew this soil was here because we dealt with it with our water system. I did not know that kind of clay soil was there, but that trench will sit there for a month. It'll look just like that in a month. This already fell in overnight. I mean, it won't even stay up. So if we wanted to dig a trench right and leave it here for a week, you're gonna dig a 6-foot deep, 6-foot wide trench. And I told the electrical guy, this is why I want this backfilled. I mean, among other reasons, because this will not stay up. This will all just keep falling in, keep falling in. So we've got to get the conduit in there first. That way, if it does fall in, it's not that big of a deal. And the second of all, just get it backfilled so we don't have to deal with it. Oh, it might be a little too long. Yeah. That looks like I bashed our drainage pipe there. So we'll have to probably dig that out. Fix that. It's got a pretty good boo-boo. Well, cruising along, doing good. I think that's, what do we say, that's 250 feet of 2.5-inch Schedule 80. not bad. I think it probably took me about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. That's the critical part, because hopefully, if all goes plan, tomorrow morning the electricians will be here to pull the wire through there. So that's the important part. While they're working on that, I can be doing other things. Although I think the 1.25" and the 3/4 are going to be a lot easier. But Alyssa tells me that she just juiced a bunch more of the beets and carrots from the garden. So I'm going to go check that out. Holy cow. Wow. Wow, so good. Lots of carrot juice in there. I can taste it. Well, I think what I'm going to focus on right now, I've got about maybe 45 minutes of daylight left, 30, 45 minutes. I think I'll get everything laid out and glued. If I have daylight, I'll put it in the trench, and if I don't, it'll be nothing to lay everything in the trench in the morning. Well, that does it for today on the conduit. I think that's a good stopping point. I want the electricians to get here in the morning, look through the trench, make sure I didn't make any major mistakes. Not really sure what mistakes I could make, other than maybe right where that soil's kind of rocky, they're gonna have an issue with the depth. I figured let's leave the conduit out. It'll take 2 seconds to put it in there in the morning and make sure they're good and happy. I have a little bit of time this evening, so I think I'm gonna work on getting the stairs complete. As you guys probably remember, they never got done. So the big issues are that this set of treads is not secured to the concrete. And the big issue with that was the radiant. I pulled up my handy drone shot from when we poured our radiant and did some measuring, and unfortunately, exactly where that cleat goes, there's probably radiant. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just too much of a risk. I'm not willing to do it. I think down the road, once we get the radiant hooked up and functioning, we could use thermal imaging or a thermal imaging camera to locate the radiant very precisely. That way we can drill in and not risk hitting the radiant. It's just too much of a risk. Not gonna do it. I also need to cut the post for this set of the railing and get the railing completed. I'm not sure I'm gonna get all that done tonight. That's a little bit of a task. And then I ran out of mastic on these upper treads. So we'll get those masticed. I'm gonna pull this bottom tread off and put mastic on that cleat so it can set overnight, because I have a hunch we're gonna end up using these stairs quite a bit with the electrical coming up. And then probably in the next few days, maybe I'll get around to doing the railing. It's nice to have them all matching. So 2 of the treads were pressure treat because I ran out of tread material when I originally built the stairs. And I got the material the other night, but I haven't had time to put them on. Got it all done, got them all glued and screwed properly. The lower treads are screwed and glued. That cleat is glued on. It's good enough for now. I think we'll have to wait probably 2-3 months before we get the radiant hooked up in here, and that'll feel a lot better. Otherwise, this is feeling more complete. It's getting pretty late, and we've got a long day tomorrow. Gonna have to be up early, so I think I'm gonna bag it for now. This feels good. I know they're screwed and glued, so they're not gonna start squeaking and doing all this stuff. And of course, there's no safety hazard there or anything like that. Getting the handrail put on, yeah, maybe another evening. I know to a lot of folks out there, this just looks like a set of stairs, but to Alyssa and I, it feels like progress. It's been weird to be able to, in the morning, just run upstairs into the house and not have to climb a ladder. I know Alyssa's been more encouraged to stretch and enjoy the house. Of course, with electricity coming, we'll be able to add some heat and some hot water, and those 2 things are gonna start making this house feel more like these stairs, just progress. Of course, we can work on a lot of the stuff during the winter, but this was imperative for us to enjoy the house, because once the bathroom is ready to go, we want to be able to use the upstairs like a living area a little bit, but we want to be able to come up and down at night and things to use the restroom, and just generally make it safer and more comfortable. And I'm really glad we went with that stair design. It's worked really well. We've been using it for I think a couple weeks now, maybe not quite that much, but tread depth and the riser height, we nailed it. Beautiful set of stairs.